Affairs don't begin in the bedroom. They begin in childhood. In the part of you that decided she needed to bury her truth just to be loved. The part that's now screaming to be seen. I'm Alex Croxford, and this is the Deeper Love podcast, where we name the shame, face the guilt, and help you find your way back to yourself. So let's begin. Most women think that their affair means they have ruined love forever. But what if it's actually the moment your life cracked open? What if it's the doorway to the deepest love you've ever known? Because here's the thing, right? Everybody thinks that they want deep love. Everybody thinks that they want to be seen and to be held and to be understood and to be loved and for someone to be emotionally available. And these things seem very desirable on the surface. But the reality is, deep love asks so much more from us than surface level love. In my life, I have had 4 serious relationships. Adam is my 4th partner that I've lived with. But this is the only relationship that I have truly felt seen, and I have allowed myself to be vulnerable in, and I have allowed myself to ask for what I need, to ask for what I want, to have conflict that doesn't have to end in a breakup or not speaking to each other for days. And before that, all of my relationships, I'll be really honest, were very surface level. And that surface level love never really asked anything of me. It let me stay silent. I didn't have to talk about how I felt. I didn't have to ask for what I needed. I never said if I was upset or if I wanted more than I was getting. I just kind of coasted. And it was like that in all 3 of my relationships, including my marriage. And even my ex-husband and I had a conversation where we both admitted, after our marriage had ended, about a year after our marriage had ended, that our relationship hadn't been built on solid foundations. And what I see as solid foundations is truth. And I don't mean truth just by not having affairs. I mean truth of our innermost desires or our innermost dreams or our innermost feelings. And I wanted to be loved for my heart. I wanted to be loved in that way. I didn't know how to do it, and I didn't really know what it looked like, and I didn't really know what it meant, but I wanted it. But I'll be honest, I didn't want to be seen. Because being truly seen felt dangerous, like terrifying. Being seen meant actually exposing what was underneath the mask. It meant talking about things that I was worried about or I didn't like, or that I didn't like about myself. You know, I didn't even... This is the wildest thing, actually, when I look back. I mean, there's so many wild things. But when I look back, I mean, there were so many points in my relationship where I could have spoken so much more openly about what I was experiencing. But in my marriage, during that period of time where we were going through IVF, or we were going through the whole fertility journey that we went through, I really didn't say how I felt about it. There was maybe like, I can remember twice having a conversation. Once when we were told that we were going to have to go through IVF, I remember bursting into tears, which is very unlike me, and just saying, I don't want to go through IVF. I don't want to go through IVF. And, you know, he did the best that he could in that moment. He didn't really know what to do with me, if I'm honest. I think he gave me a hug. And then there was another time, obviously, you know, when you're going on that journey and you're having to have timed sexual intercourse and all of the nonsense that comes with trying to have a baby, in inverted commas, I just remember sat at the dining room table and, you know, feeling very, very on my own. And I think that's an experience for many women going through IVF. But I can see now one of the reasons I felt so alone was because I wasn't really telling him how I felt. Like, we were going through this process, but I didn't say, I feel terrified, I feel sad, I feel grief, I feel lonely, I feel lost. That would have let him see me, but I didn't let him see me. And I even remember there was a moment we were walking to the IVF clinic, and I've been to that IVF clinic so many times. If anyone's been through IVF, you'll know the number of times you have to go back and forth for blood tests and to have the special wand inserted inside you. It's a crazy number of times, backwards and forward and backwards and forwards. And I did most of the appointments on my own just because I kind of thought that that's, you know, what you had to do. I just kind of got on with it. And I often remember seeing couples in the waiting room and feeling quite jealous that they were together. But I never really felt like I could ask him for that. I was too scared. Not because I thought he was going to like be angry or abusive, just because that felt like I was really asking for too much, which now I look back and think that's hilarious. But there was one particular time we were walking to the IVF clinic, and I remember I just wanted him to put his arm around me. And I remember saying this to my mentor that I was working with at the time. I said, you know, we were walking towards the hospital and all I wanted was for him to put his arm around me. And she said, well, did you ask him to? I was like, no. And she said, well, how is he going to know what you want if you don't ask him for what you need? And that honestly blew my mind. I didn't even know you could ask for things like that. That felt so mental to me. And that was really one of the points where I just realized on my healing journey that I never learned, or I never knew how to really show myself. I never knew how to express, or I didn't know how to have boundaries. I didn't know how to cry in front of him. This is what surface love allowed. Two people just coexisting side by side, and we coexisted really well. Like, we were a great team in so many ways. We had probably the best wedding I've ever been to. And we did an amazing job on our house, doing our house up. We were brilliant at festivals and parties, but there was no depth and there was no intimacy and no emotional truth. And I hadn't even heard the words emotional intimacy until we sat in front of the couples therapist. And she basically pointed out the fact that there was no emotional intimacy in our marriage. And I was like, what? But I'm so easy and open and easy to love. And that was a rather rude awakening when I realized I was quite the opposite. And in fact, I was a very closed book. The affair didn't really happen out of nowhere. And the funniest thing is that I call it an affair, but there was no real depth of emotional connection with me and him either. It was very much about me wanting to feel desired and wanted and like I mattered to someone. But the reason I can see why it had to happen was that part of me that was longing for something more, something deeper than what I had. It just erupted. That part of me that was starving for more depth and more truth, it just bubbled up and over. And I wish on so many levels that it didn't have to happen like that, because of the trauma that went through my entire life and his entire life. But if that hadn't happened, if I'm honest with you, me and my ex probably would have just bumbled along and we would have had an okay life. Perhaps we would have broken up for another reason, because I really believe that him and I loved each other to the depth that we were able to. We were, and that's it. Like I have no hard feelings towards him at all. I absolutely loved what we built together. But it wasn't enough for me, and I really believe it's not enough for him either. And the thing about deep love, the thing about real love and real intimacy, the word intimacy, just so you understand where I'm coming from, is into me you see, right? Intimacy isn't just physical intimacy. But when you move into true, real, intimate love, real love is not just cute date nights or, soft lighting and strolls along the river. I mean, all those things are great. They're not just going to parties together and getting extensions done and managing the weekly schedule and the weekly shop and the children's, after school clubs. Real, deep, intimate love exposes you. And it really triggers the parts that you have avoided. It's not comfortable, your love. People say, oh, love should be easy, like when it's easy. And there is a difference between it being easy and surface level, because you're not having to really show yourself or put yourself out there. There's a difference between that and ease, a relationship being easeful. Because you can have a relationship that feels easeful and true, but one that asks for honesty, one that asks for true presence when all you've ever done before is disappear. And my relationship with Adam is that exact example. Like, I have never been in relationship with someone where it has felt so easeful. Like, I don't have to wear a mask when I'm around him. I feel like I can be 100% myself. I mean, there are always moments where, I might find myself holding back, and I can recognize that now, but I'd say 99% of the time I feel like it is such an easeful connection that we are in. But it is also deeper because I'm deeper. Because I can be honest. I can say, I feel scared, or I need you right now, or I feel really sad, or I need to take space. Because I'm not armoring through everything. I'm not wearing this perpetual mask to protect myself from being hurt. But it's also challenging because the parts that it brings up are parts that are so much more challenging to face. The parts that in the past, I would have just swallowed down. I would have just not said if I was upset. I would have not asked for the space that I need. I would not have said if he'd done something to annoy me. I'd have just sulked or slammed some cupboard doors. So it is more nourishing in so many ways, but it's also more challenging. And this is why, people say they want deep love, they want to be seen, they want to be held, they want to be understood. And I say to them, you want to be seen, but will you allow yourself to be seen? You want to be understood, but how terrified are you of being misunderstood? And these are all things that are truly vulnerable. But without them, it is impossible to have the depth of love that I am experiencing right now. He meets me there because I am willing to be met. And if I hadn't have gone through everything that I have gone through, if I hadn't cheated and created such a huge rupture in our marriage that I was forced to face all of the ways in which I was creating my own suffering in my relationship. And that isn't about self-blame, that's about seeing the ways in which I wasn't letting him see my heart. So how could he love me at the depths that I wanted him to love me? And so if I hadn't have been through that, and I hadn't gone through the whole experience of peeling all these layers back and seeing how I was standing in my own way, then I wouldn't be experiencing this love now. And so if you cheated, it doesn't mean that you are incapable of deep love. And it doesn't mean that you will never experience deep love again. I know that is a fear of so many of my clients, and it was a fear of mine. I remember saying to my therapist at one point, what if no one loves me as deeply as my ex did? And now I can see that the real question was, how deeply can I be loved if I really allow myself to be seen? And so, as I said, it doesn't mean that you're incapable of deep love. It means that deep love wasn't safe for you yet. It means that your body was wired for safety, not intimacy. And it probably means you abandoned you long before you betrayed anyone else. I know that you are scared that you can't ever do love properly, that you'll ruin it again, or that you don't deserve depth or to be met or to be loved anymore. But the woman who is willing to tell the truth, finally, fully, without hiding, she's already standing at the threshold of deeper love. And so I want you to really take this in, that deeper love isn't something that you earn. It's something that you let in. It's something that you learn to let in. And however old you are, however young you are, whatever your circumstances are in life, you are not behind. You are not broken. You are on the edge of your becoming. And if this feels close to the bone, if this has touched something in you, I invite you to come to the next and final softening session of the year. I will not be running the softening sessions next year in 2026. So please do come. We are going to be honoring and letting go of the year that you have just had and visioning the year that we are going into. Thank you for listening to the Deeper Love podcast. If today's episode spoke to you, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you're ready to go deeper, you'll find all the ways to work with me in the show notes. Until next time.